Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the penultimate round of the Junior Saloon Car Championship's official eSeries here on Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing. We arrived tonight at the Snetterton 300 circuit for, as I said, the penultimate event of the season. The championship is still not decided and is guaranteed to go down to the final round in a week's time. More on that in a moment or two. But either way, tonight's two races will have a significant impact on the outcome of what has been a hotly contested championship. My name is Andy McEwen, here to talk you through all of the action as always. And once more, a big thanks to everyone who makes this championship possible, to Mick Sutton, our series organiser, to Scott Thorne, our race director and safety car driver, and of course to Tom O'Farrell, our broadcast director, who will bring you the lovely pictures of the Snetterton 300 circuit in all of its glory over the next hour or so. As I said, this is the penultimate event of the season. It's a championship that started at Silverstone back on the 23rd of February before heading to Donington Park, to Brands Hatch, to Croft, and then Alton Park a week ago, where plenty of drama was had, particularly in the second race of the evening. It looked for a little while actually like we were going to see some big changes in the championship picture, but ultimately our championship leader able to come out of it with a decent points haul nonetheless. He'll be looking to do the same again here tonight at Snetterton before heading to Thruxton in a week's time, where excitingly it has just been announced that we are going to have a double points finale. So the final round at Thruxton will still consist of two races. They will still both be of 20 minutes in duration, but the second of those races will be worth double points. So 25 points for a race win is the usual points tally. It will be a 50-point race victory in that final race, and also the fastest lap point will be doubled as well. So essentially means that nearly 80 points will be up for grabs when we rock up at virtual Thruxton in a week's time, which means that mathematically the championship cannot be decided here tonight at Snetterton. This is how the championship standings look, and CJ Morgan may be 30 points clear of Jordan Taylor, but we've seen in recent weeks that Jordan Taylor has actually been as quick, if not arguably slightly quicker than CJ on occasion. They're both very, very evenly matched, though. It is just the fact that Jordan Taylor missed around earlier in the season that sees him 30 points back. The double points finale is designed in a way, I guess, to give those who have had to miss a week of racing a last-ditch opportunity to try and get themselves back into contention. It will likely be one of those two who end up taking the championship. Riley Bishop, sitting in third place, is now over 50 points off the championship lead. Still mathematically in contention, but it is a bit of a long shot. The same is true of Alexander Mosthav, the second of the Chandler Motorsport drivers, with Harley Connolly fifth, ahead of Levine Kishore, Lewis Stannard. They are joint sixth place. Then it's Nathan Jensen 2 points further back, whilst Luke Sintler and JB Petters are only a couple of points separated at the back end of the top 10. Zach Palmer only 4 points further back, and a bit of a jump back to James Sherrington, who, as you can see, has had his fair share of drama this season based upon the points penalties accrued. Will Crudson, joining halfway through the season, is up into 13th. Now Josh Salvadori, by the way, 14th in the points, was voted our driver of the round a week ago. Do let us know in the comments whether you think there is a particular driver who has impressed you tonight and is worthy of the driver of the round award, because we do value your input. Josh was pretty much unanimously, I think, agreed upon a week ago. Jensen Bell, Charlie Constable, Gabriel Doyle Parfait, Hayden Gray, Jonathan Moore and Cameron Pratt Thompson round out the 20 drivers who have scored points so far this season. Well, what is it that they're all fighting for? Well, as well as the honour of becoming the first ever Junior Saloon Car Championship official eSeries champion, there is money up for grabs too, and I suspect that will be at least as significant to the drivers as the title of being champion is. Third place in the championship receiving £100, second place receiving £200, and our champion gets the champion's choice of either a £300 cash prize or an Optics 31.5-inch curved gaming monitor, and they will get to decide that as and when the championship is confirmed. As we said, it will be going down, we know now, to that final round of the season. The driver of the round award, by the way, the FreeM UK provided sim racing gloves. We thank FreeM for their continued support of the series, and they're donating that pair of sim racing gloves to the driver that we collectively decide has impressed us the most over the course of tonight's two races. And that doesn't just have to be the highest point scorer or somebody getting a race win or a podium or two. It can be for a really good overtake, for some really good racecraft, for a great recovery drive, whatever it is that you think is a valid reason for the Driver of the Round award to be given away, then do let us know. So we'll be moving into qualifying very shortly. In fact, there we are, right on cue. We're already about halfway through the session, 5.5 minutes to go. And Jordan Taylor, who has notched up a good amount of practice laps here at Snetterton this week, is currently sat on the provisional pole position. He is nearly 8/10 clear of Jamie Petter's second and CJ Morgan third. So really the big storyline we need to follow tonight is the battle between Jordan Taylor and CJ Morgan. 30 points is the starting point between those two in CJ Morgan's favour. But of course, pole position for this first race worth a bonus point, and that is what Jordan Taylor is gunning for. He comes across the line then, starting another flying lap around the Snetterton 300 circuit. Let's see if we can ride on board with the championship challenger as he gives us a guided tour around this very technically demanding circuit that begins with a full commitment high-speed double apex right-hander there at Riches, and then the tight twisty stuff begins. Hard on the brakes into the Wilson hairpin, one of the best overtaking opportunities on the track, and Jordan Taylor doesn't exactly make friends with the apex there, drifts out a little bit wide, and that will have hurt his mid-corner speed quite significantly. Now accelerating up towards the left-hander at Palmer's. Really awkward corner. You can see how you go over a crest there through the apex. You lose front end grip just as you turn in, but then down in the compression, the front grips up again, so you can get on the throttle quite early, and crucial to get a good run down into the Agostini hairpin, where again we tend to see a lot of outbraking manoeuvres attempted. The late apex here is the best way to go, really. Jordan Taylor manages the understeer nicely, just clipped the curb slightly to help rotate the car, and now we head into the really awkward section at Hamilton and Oggies. Careful not to hit the curb or indeed that tyre stack on the inside line. Get back over to the left-hand side of the road for the braking zone into Oggies. Another really awkward, tight right-hander. Big sausage curb on the inside that you need to be sure to avoid. And then up into the right-hander at Williams. Another pretty awkward corner, actually. Seems to go on forever. And again, goes over a slight crest in the road as the car makes its way around the apex. Jordan has, we think, backed out of this lap, so this is not a full flying lap that we're seeing, but we're still getting a decent look at what Snetterton looks like. Harley Connolly perhaps is pushing a little bit harder, as well he might, because he's 1.8 seconds off the pace down in 7th position right now. Harley is only a couple of corners behind where we left Jordan Taylor. In fact, he's just turning his way through Oggies now into the right-hander at Williams. And again, a really crucial corner this. You've got to get off this turn well to carry the speed down the Bentley Straight, previously known as the Revet Straight. It's slightly shorter now than it used to be. It used to be one of the longest straights in British motorsport. And you want to really be spending most of this time focusing on what you're going to do next, which is hit the brakes and turn into the Brundle and Nelson complex. A really difficult part of the track this. You hit the brakes just under the bridge, turning left. The car doesn't like braking and turning, and it really doesn't like braking and turning and then changing direction into Nelson, which is exactly what you're asking it to do. Harley Connolly also having to avoid a car there that has been grass tracking slightly on the exit of the corner, which he does. Down through the bomb hole, the corner with that big compression at the apex should be flat out in these cars, and then the never-ending right-hander at Curram Corner, which of course was reprofiled some time ago now to become even longer and even more demanding, and then into the final turn at Murray's, and Harley Connolly's just made a bit of a mistake there, carried a bit too much speed in. You could see the armfuls of understeer that he was carrying. He will take the shortest run to the line, but a bit of grass tracking there out of the final corner will not have helped his chances of improving his time. Let's see whether or not he can. No, stays in 8th position. In fact, may have even invalidated the lap there by running wide out of the final turn. Meanwhile, CJ Morgan has improved to 2nd place, so we now have the top 2 in the championship sharing the front row. But crucially, well, 2 things that are important really. Oh, well, never mind. Levine Kishaw has broken that up now, but he is still 6/10 nearly slower than Jordan Taylor. So that advantage in pace that Jordan has will be giving him a lot of confidence going into the first of tonight's 2 races, that perhaps a race victory is on the cards. And if Jordan is going to have any chance of beating CJ Morgan to this championship, he really needs a perfect score here tonight. 2 race wins from pole position in race 1 at least. And if he could get them, the bonus points for the fastest lap would go down a treat too. Of course, that challenge will be made a lot more difficult by the fact the second race is that full reversed grid. But race 1, if he can start at the front, which he clearly feels confident he will because he's been sat in the pit lane for a little while now, Jordan Taylor. And that certainly improves his chances of getting that first race victory. So Levine Kishore then up into second position. Levine Kishore 6th in the points, but has missed a couple of rounds early this season. Whenever he's raced with us, though, he's been a contender for podiums and race victories. Doesn't look like that's going to change here at Snetterton. Turning his way now up towards the right-hander at Oggies. Another place where you've really got to control that understeer, not carry too much speed through the turn. Lewis Stannard there, jumping into 5th position now. Quite tight, isn't it, outside the top 3, really. Jamie Petters, Lewis Stannard, and Alexander Mostov covered by just a 10th of a second, those 3. So that's a pretty tasty-looking battle just outside of the top 3. But as you kind of expect, I suppose, on such a long lap as this one, nearly 2.5 minutes, this is by far the longest of the circuits that we're racing at this season. We are seeing a bit more separation in lap times. Hopefully that doesn't translate into the race, because we'd like to have a really closely fought pair of races. The reverse grid race is always action-packed, but race 1, Jordan Taylor will be hoping for the exact opposite, actually. He'll be hoping that he can break clear from the front. It looks almost certain now that he will start from pole position, and therefore 1 championship point goes his way. Alexander Mostov jumps back ahead of Jamie Petters there into 4th place, and on a 26.0 is almost exactly 1 second slower than the pole time, but does become the 4th driver to get within a second of Jordan Taylor's pace. Jamie Petters, the next one through, not able to retaliate there, so stays in 5th position with, by the looks of it, only a couple of other drivers still conducting flying laps. We haven't seen a lap from Nathan Jensen, interestingly. Will Crudson there just jumped up into 10th position. Here is Nathan Jensen, the Grazzi Motorsport car. A long way offline there through Coram, but really straightening up the line into Murray's. And Nathan, I think, has backed off as well on the end of that lap. So perhaps some issues for Nathan Jensen. Pulls off the road. His session is done. And for whatever reason, never set a time. Quite easy to exceed track limits around here, though. And if you do, of course, that will mean that your lap time is invalidated, as I suspect may have just happened there to Lewis Stannard coming out of Nelson. And if you think it's such a long lap, you've only got 15 minutes to get a time in, it's entirely possible that the likes of Nathan Jensen just never got a clean lap in. And you don't have as many bites of the cherry here as you would have at a circuit like Brands Hatch, for example, where we raced a few weeks ago. Even circuits like Alton Park and Croft that are not the shortest, you'll get more laps in during the qualifying session. So easy to get things a little bit wrong in qualifying here at Snetterton, but it looks as though the drivers at the front of the field, or one driver in particular, has got it absolutely right, and that is Jordan Taylor, who joins us now in the commentary box. Jordan, fantastic effort there in qualifying. At one point, it looked like you were going to take pole by nearly 0.8 of a second. You'll have to settle for 0.6, but either way, that's a pretty handy advantage to take into race 1.
Yeah, the 2 tenths more is not a big difference to me personally, but I managed to hook that lap up very well. To be honest, I didn't think I'd get a low 25, so it's kind of a shock to me as well.
So you're surprised at the pace then? That's interesting, because you've put a lot of practice into this round, as well you might, because you've got to try and start out scoring CJ really for a chance at the championship. How much do you think that practice has helped you now to really hit the ground running tonight?
I think I have a little advantage, but it's racing at the end of the day. There could be a little bit of contact. We don't know how it racing's racing. As you saw in race 2 last week, I got a tap and I dropped a couple of positions. That could happen to me in this race. Who knows?
Exactly, and you really can't afford that now. It's got to be every point that you can gather. How much chance do you think you've got of a maximum points haul here tonight?
I want to jinx myself, but quite a good chance.
Well, there you go. You've said it now. I only asked the question. You're the one that gave the answer, so you can't blame me now for the curse of the commentator, Jordan. I think you've got a good chance, though. I really do. You're looking very quick, and 1 point already is in your pocket after that very impressive qualifying performance. We'll let you go and prepare for the first race of the night, Jordan, but I'm sure this will not be the last time that we talk tonight.
Cheers, Andy.
So Jordan Taylor then, pole position for our first race here at Snetterton. As I said, 1 championship point goes his way. As a result of that, for those who are interested, points allocated within the races, 25 points for a win, 22 for second, 20 for third. So it's a 3-point swing between finishing first and second, then a 2-point swing between second and third, and then 1 point per position from third on backwards. So essentially, if you're not on the podium, then it's 1 point per position. So 20 for third, 19 for fourth, 18 for fifth, and so on. Wherever you finish, you are guaranteed to score points. And then you have the bonus points for the fastest race lap and for the best qualifying lap, which, as we've just said, Jordan Taylor has managed to take. He's going to be really hopeful now for a clean start and a clean race in general, because Alton Park, he did get involved in just a couple of little bits of contact. He and CJ Morgan did battle over the first few corners of race 1 before contact was made shortly after, which put CJ in the barriers. No further action taken on that, though, interestingly. And then, as Jordan said, he was involved in some contact in race 2 as well, just when things were starting to look good for him. So cars lining up on the grid then, pole position on our right as we look at it. So Jordan Taylor, the all-black car on pole. Black and pink alongside is Levine Kishore. Then we move through onto the second row of the grid, where the two Chandler Motorsport teammates find themselves together, don't they, then, with CJ Morgan and Alexander Mosthav together. Morgan on our right and Alexander Mosthav on the left. Then on row number 3 of the grid, as you can see, the next pair of cars side by side. My timing screen has chosen a brilliant time to brake as we're running through the grid. That is Jamie Petters, I believe, isn't it? Who is starting alongside Lewis Stannard on that third row of the grid. And we have got about 30 seconds, we believe, before the first race of the night starts. I should say Nathan Jensen was documented right at the back of the field, and is going to be pretty disappointed with that, I'm sure, but fingers crossed, can get himself a little bit further up the grid over the course of 20 minutes. So 20 minutes on the clock, 30 points, well now 29 points between the two cars on the front row of the grid. Red lights fully illuminated, out they will go, and a good start made by Jordan Taylor, it seems. Certainly his reaction time's a little bit better, but also a good start by Alexander Mosthav in the 888 car there from the inside of row number 2, and he might be able to move ahead of his teammate. He has, in fact, I think he's got past Kishore too, and might even be having a nibble at Jordan Taylor for the race lead. He is, but he's, no, in fact, sorry, I beg your pardon, he's still third, Levine Kishore. That is Mosthav into second place, and now challenging round the outside into the Wilson hairpin. Hard on the brakes they will go. CJ Morgan peeking up the inside of Kishore for third, but it is Jordan Taylor who will retain the early advantage out of Wilson and down towards Palmer's. Bit of pushing and shoving going on further back as cars bounce over the curbs and rejoin the circuit in as safe a manner as they can. So the top 4 already now starting to make a break. That's Harley Connolly on the outside of Lewis Stannard, and Zach Palmer's made some good progress, and he's looking to try and make more. He's 3 wide up the inside line down towards the Agostini hairpin, and if he can make this one stick, he'll be up into the top 5. That's been a brilliant start from Zach, but there's contact. He's sideways over onto the curb, onto the grass, slides back in front of Lewis Stannard, and Harley Connolly getting delayed in all of that too. So too Stannard, who ends up taking to the grass in avoidance, and somehow Zach Palmer is still in 5th position. Stannard left to battle with Luke Sintler, as they go through Hamilton. And onto the brakes into Oggy's corner. That's so off completely now has gone Lewis Stannard into the barriers. So there was another squeeze there, I think, going into the braking zone at Oggy's. And he found himself fired off the road in pretty spectacular fashion. Will Crudson there, the all-yellow car on the outside. Hayden Gray is the blue and black car who we saw grass tracking in qualifying earlier. Now tried to make up some ground. The top 4, though, have checked out. And Jordan Taylor, with really the perfect start to this race. Had to fend off Alexander Mosthav through the first couple of corners, but not only is it the perfect start for Taylor because he's leading, but also he's got 2 cars now between himself and CJ Morgan, although those 2 cars are now going side by side through the bomb hole. That is a little bit risky, and CJ Morgan will want to try and pick up the pieces here if he can. side by side into corner, on board with CJ Morgan. This is the perspective of the championship leader. Look how close the racing is now as they hit the brakes into Murray. He's going to try and go around the outside, but Kishore is sideways, and CJ Morgan has nowhere to go, gets into the side of him, and that kills his momentum onto the pit straight. Zach Palmer goes through, Luke Sintler goes through as well, and Levine Kishore, unfortunately, losing even more ground, will towards the back of the top 10. But that was really unfortunate. You saw it beautifully there from CJ Morgan's perspective. He had to choose a side of the road. He chose right, and that proved in the end to be the wrong way to go. Side by side again now. This is actually for second place, would you believe? Zach Palmer around the outside of Alex Mostav has come through from outside the top 5 on the grid to second place at the beginning of lap number 2. Luke Sintler coming through with him as well. Alexander Mostav trying his best to hold on to that position on the inside. And then it's Harley Connolly. That was Kishore off again, I think, going through Wilson Hairpin. And he is calling it a day now. Levine Kishore in the pit lane, out of the race. What a shame for the driver who qualified on the front row of the grid. It's been a surprisingly aggressive start to the race. Not for Jordan Taylor, though, who is 4.3 seconds up the road. He couldn't have been scripted better for the man runner-up in the championship at the moment, because he's leading by an absolute country mile after just a lap and a half of racing, and the man that he's chasing in the championship, CJ Morgan, is only in 6th position. So as it stands, 25 points would go to Taylor, 17 would go to Kishore. That's 8 points, and the gap by my reckoning would be just a fraction over 20 as it stands. There goes Mostav back up the inside of Luke Sintler. There is every chance, of course, that CJ Morgan will also be able to regain some ground before the race is over. Well, Mostav not quite able to get rid of Harley Connolly just yet. Connolly comes back up the inside through the Williams right-hander, out onto the Bentley straight, but I think that inside line will cost him some momentum and allow Alexander Mostav to stay ahead. So, dramatic start to our first race of the evening, and I suspect more drama to come because CJ Morgan has got it all to do now. 30-point championship lead. It feels very comfortable, I'm sure. It looks very comfortable, but from where CJ is sat right now, we'll be feeling less and less comfortable, won't it? 21 points, I think, would be the difference right now between CJ and Jordan, with 3 races to go. But that double points finale with 50 points available in race 2 at Thruxton, that's looming large now over this championship battle, and it will be making the Chandler Motorsport driver just a little bit nervous, I'm sure. Into the left-hander at Murray as we go, but a curb taken there by CJ Morgan, who 2 wheels out onto the grass. Didn't get a brilliant exit there because of that, though, so actually he's not going to be close enough to challenge, I don't think, into Riches, as the new fastest lap is set quite comfortably by Jordan Taylor, so you can possibly add another point onto that now. So 1 race down, and he may well have taken a third of the championship advantage out of CJ Morgan that CJ enjoyed coming into tonight. Into Wilson we go. Not quite close enough again to have a lunge here, but does close in under braking. So too behind him did James Sherrington, who almost looked from that perspective like he was going to make contact with the number 59 car. CJ definitely made a game there, though, on Harley Connolly, didn't he, through the Wilson hairpin. Harley Connolly, one of the most improved drivers of late. He has put in a lot of laps. I believe he did more practice laps this week, Harley, than any other driver. But it's showing because, okay, qualifying wasn't great, but he was in the right place at the right time on the early laps to gain some ground. And now he is holding off the runaway championship leader without having to defend particularly hard at all for now. I'm sure that defence will come, but Harley will be in no hurry to move aside here for CJ Morgan. CJ just has to play this cool now, I think. He's got this points advantage. Yes, it's being whittled away by Jordan Taylor as it stands, but a 6th place finish would not be the end of the world for CJ Morgan. He'd be disappointed to lose the points, sure, but at least that would mean that he would start well ahead of Jordan Taylor for the reverse grid race 2. Meanwhile, Luke Sintler, into the back of Zach Palmer slightly there as they come out of Williams. Onto the Bentley straight. Sintler will tuck into the slipstream and just lost a bit of momentum there, I think, coming off the corner. Not going to be close enough to have a go into Brundle and Nelson. The bridge. Car balanced on a knife edge here through the left, not helped by rattling over the curbs there, although Luke actually gets the change of direction done pretty nicely. He's right on the rear bumper again of Zach Palmer as they turn into the bomb hole. But there's really nowhere to go through here. He's carrying all the momentum in the world through the corner, but he can't drive through the car ahead and has to lift off the throttle. This is typical Snetterton stuff, really. There are places you can pass around here, but you've got to be close enough at the right part of the track. Now, Zach Palmer defending there into Murray's. I thought that might lose him a bit more exit speed than it did, but actually came off the corner pretty well. The quickest of the cars we're seeing right now was Alexander Mostav. He's really gained on Sintler coming off the turn. Harley Connolly and CJ Morgan continuing their dice, with Harley remaining in front for now. But these three grouping themselves right together as they go into Rich's once again. Through the right-hander. Really making sure you clip that first apex, but letting the car run wide on the second apex. CJ Morgan up the inside, so too is Luke Sintley. Don't know where to look, do you? Well, the championship leader does make his move stick, but then gets booted back out of the way by Harley Connolly, who was trying the switchback there and perhaps didn't time it all that well, but he's gone through. Meanwhile, Zach Palmer fended off Luke Sintler as well. Luke with a late lunge up the inside through the Wilson hairpin. But that actually has lost him some momentum now, and so Alexander Mostav is up the inside of him, and I think might be about to move into third position here. Agostini's late on the brakes, gets to the apex first, but Sintler's going to try and carry that momentum around the outside. We've seen this a lot this season. These low-powered Citroen Saxos, restricted in power and top speed because they are a junior category, even here in the sim. And that means the momentum is absolutely critical. You've got the inside, as CJ Morgan is doing here at Oggie's, and you're often quite slow on the exit of the corner. But CJ, I think, has executed a good block pass there. He's trying to get back across to defend from Harley Connolly into Williams, which he does. And so Harley Connolly stays in, or drops down, I should say now, into 6th position. Along the Bentley straight they go again. Like Jordan Taylor is in a different class to this lot. It's not that he's got a performance advantage. Obviously, he's just really nailing this track, and also got a bit lucky at the start of the race. There was so much chaos behind him, but I think there was every chance he was going to pull away anyway, given the amount of practice laps that he'd done. Track limits? What track limits? Coming out of Nelson corner there. CJ Morgan and Harley Connolly really, really wide, and CJ actually now converting that into a move up the inside of his teammate Alexander Mostav, who you would imagine would not put up too much of a fight. Mostav is 4th in the championship. He is an outside bet for the title, but it's looking very unlikely that he'll be able to beat CJ Morgan or Jordan Taylor. And now CJ into the back of Luke Sintler through Murray's. Now that was a little bit un-CJ Morgan-like, and he's backed off, I think, to redress the situation. So make sure that he didn't gain anything out of that. That was heads-up driving from CJ. Because that could very easily have been seen as a push to pass. I thought I saw some action behind. That's Will Crudson and Lewis Stannard, Hayden Gray, I beg your pardon, and Will Crudson coming together. Meanwhile, back at the pointy end, CJ Morgan still stuck behind Luke Sintler. Of course, Zach Palmer is running in 2nd place as well. He's not going to be an easy driver to pass. CJ the inside of Sintler, who again gets that switchback. This is what I mean. You go in on the outside, but it's your corner exit speed that is so crucial in these cars. And that means you really have to rethink your overtaking strategies sometimes. Into the second half of the race now then. CJ Morgan still not back onto the podium, but in 4th position. That does mean that he's now scoring 19 points, which is at the moment 7 points fewer than Jordan Taylor. But until he starts getting into the podium places, it is only 1 point per position. And actually, he's got his teammate Alexander Mostav, certainly not working with him. Looking back up the inside again there. Sintler is out on the grass just in front of them. Right on board with CJ Morgan then. With a teammate behind. You forgive him for thinking that he was in a reasonably comfortable position right now. But Alexander Mostav showing his intent there into Agostini. He's going to try and have a go. If he gets half an opportunity. Speaking of half an opportunity, here is CJ Morgan's half an opportunity to get up the inside into Williams. And again, that inside line isn't always the quickest on the way out, but it does help when you lean on the car and you're outside and put them on the grass, because now Luke Sintler will have lost a bit of momentum. Is CJ Morgan going to be able to complete the pass, though? I'm not sure he is, looking at the delta, but he'll have to watch out because Alexander Mostav is not far behind him. CJ may have actually let Luke Sintler back on the road again. That's twice they made contact now, as CJ's been trying to find a way through. Oh, carries big speed through Nelson and tags Luke Sintler again. Goes up the inside. Mostav has gone to the outside line. Harley Connolly, the yellow and black car, buying into all of this as well. As 2 by 2 they go through the bomb hole. This is fantastic racing. It's all getting a bit touchy-feely between CJ Morgan and Luke Sintler, and CJ really wants out of this situation. He's got the inside line through Coram, but Sintler is hanging with him as best he can. Has to slip back in behind again, though, and as they turn into Murray's, CJ Morgan stays ahead. There's contact there from Harley Connolly into the back of Alexander Mostav, and this is allowing James Sherrington and Jamie Petters to join in the action too. Jamie Petters in the blue and yellow car, managing to gain a position out of all of that. Meanwhile, Hayden Gray is inventing his own line out of Murray's corner. 2 laps in a row he's been on the green stuff. Coming out of the final turn, Mostav right round the outside of Luke Sintler. Gets into 4th position, and Harley Connolly arriving with so much more speed on corner exit. So CJ Morgan then, in relatively robust fashion, has got himself back onto the podium. Let's wait and see what the stewards make of some of the contact there. As I said, the first couple of times he made contact with Luke Sintler, he did the right thing and redressed the situation, but the last time he just decided to go for it, and he will say, I'm sure, that Luke backed up his speed a bit too much through the middle part of the corner. Now CJ Morgan will only be worrying about trying to chase down Zach Palmer for second position. A valuable second that would be as well, because at the moment he's scoring 20 points for third. That's 6 fewer than Jordan Taylor, who is leading and has set the fastest lap. Whereas if he can finish in second position, he gets another 2 points back. So 4 points only would be his loss in this race. And that's a lot more tolerable. Meanwhile, Jamie Petters continuing this charge up the order. Look, gets on the inside now of Harley Connolly. And Jamie Petters has sort of arrived on the back of this train out of nowhere, and he's immediately starting to carve his way through the traffic into the top half dozen now. That's delayed. Harley Connolly, who has contact there with James Sherrington coming onto the straight, and in the world's longest accident, I think somehow Harley Connolly's avoided making contact with anything, but that will lose him a lot of time. By the time he's back up to speed, it is likely that Nathan Jensen and Lewis Stannard will be on his case. In fact, they might even both get past him. I think they will, won't they? As they barrel down towards us. Here they come, and yep, Harley Connolly will lose those 2 places. What about Hayden Gray? Can he get through as well? He's going to look to the inside line, late on the break, slides through. Well, there's one freebie back again as Nathan Jensen loses control. Oh, and so does Hayden Gray. So it's all going on. Hayden Gray having a bit of a race to forget. Every time we cut to him, he seems to have a wobble. It's unfortunate for Hayden, who every time he seems to move up one place ends up losing a couple. So at the front of the field, Jordan Taylor leads the way, Zach Palmer second, CJ Morgan third, Alexander Mostav is fourth, and actually will move up from fourth in the championship standings at the end of this race, because coming into this one he was only 2 points adrift of Riley Bishop. Riley Bishop not racing with us tonight, but he has a very good reason. It's because he's celebrating his birthday. So if you're watching, happy birthday Riley, looking forward to having you back at Thruxton in a week's time, and perhaps you might still have a chance at moving into the top 3 and getting your hands on the £100 prize for third place in the standings. So down towards Agostini come the second, third, fourth and fifth placed cars, because Luke Sintler is not out of this battle yet. 4 minutes and change to go. And these 4 drivers all seeming pretty evenly matched. Zach Palmer, I guess, is the surprise here in this group, because he didn't qualify anywhere near the front of the field. But he has managed to make some really good progress in the race so far. Taking his chances, really, when they were presented to him. Now, he's not going to move out of the way of CJ Morgan or Alexander Mostav, but you wonder whether CJ might now be satisfied with a podium finish, because we made mention of the fact that his pace hadn't been quite as strong, perhaps, as some of the others. He was out-qualified by Jordan Taylor and Levine Kishaw in this race, of course. Now, Levine is out of the race, but Zach Palmer has moved into second. In fact, CJ gets it all wrong through Brundle and Nelson, and is out on the grass. So Alexander Mostav gets a chance to get back up the inside again, and interestingly backs out of it. Was that maybe a little bit of backing up his teammate? Hard to tell, isn't it? He's kind of looking back up the inside again into Coram, then filters back into line. But CJ Morgan has spent the last couple of laps trying to catch Zach Palmer, got onto his rear bumper and immediately made a mistake. So Zach Palmer can breathe a sigh of relief now with what should be 2 more laps to go, because the leader has just gone across the line with 2 minutes 45 to go. And of course they're lapping in the 2:25 bracket. Well, Jordan Taylor is, no one else is. Jordan Taylor 14.2 seconds now up the road as this second, third, fourth placed train comes through. They're all in the mid 27s, low 27 for Mostav, because he had a cleaner lap that time. Interestingly though, CJ Morgan already starting to get back on terms with Zach Palmer, isn't he? So Zach Palmer is not out of the woods just yet. 2:25, by the way, was another new fastest lap for Jordan Taylor, just to absolutely cement his fastest lap bonus point. So 26 points, looking like they're going to go the way of Jordan. Question is, how many will CJ Morgan score in this one? Will it be the 20 points for third? Will it be 22 for second? Or will Alexander Mostav get back past him and make it 19 points for fourth for CJ? That would be a reasonably big gain for Jordan Taylor at a time in the championship that he really needed it to. Up into Hamilton. Not really a passing place here. Oggie's sort of is. We saw CJ Morgan actually make a nice move up the inside of, I think it was Jamie Petters or Harley Connolly, maybe it was, into this corner earlier on. He's not close enough to Zach Palmer to do it this time. Now head out onto the Bentley Straight for the final time of asking. CJ Morgan then looking to try and gain 1 more position, worth 2 more championship points. And if Jordan Taylor keeps this run of form going through the final 3 races of the season, it looks like CJ Morgan's going to need every point he can get. Down into Brundle and Nelson, where he did have that moment a lap ago. Nice and in check this time. It's over the grass. Out of Nelson they go. And now towards Cora, where Zach Palmer takes a very wide line turning in. That's invitingly wide for CJ Morgan, but then the momentum switches through the middle of the corner. Zach, despite dipping a wheel on the grass into Murray's, gets through the final corner pretty neat and tidy. Zach Palmer really coming on strong in the second half of the season. As Tom O'Farrell quite rightly has just pointed out to me, he got his first win at Alton Park in the reverse grid race a week ago. Showed flashes of this potential earlier on in the season, but has really come on strong in the last couple of rounds. And now here he is, a lap away from the from a second placed finish. First podium it was at Alton Park, excuse me. It was second place in race 1, of course, after CJ Morgan had his moment. And now it's CJ Morgan again, who is harrying the Vinner Sports driver. He's all over him now as they go out of the Wilson hairpin and down towards Palmer's for the final time. CJ Morgan will look to try and set himself up, not for the move here, but the move down into Agostini's. Wide line in, tight line out. CJ Morgan not close enough though, I don't think, at this point. He's not shown himself to be massively quicker than Zach Palmer at any stage in this race, and that's going to make it difficult to find a way through. The cars, of course, incredibly evenly matched. Easier to do in the virtual world, actually, than it is in real life. Match the cars performance-wise. Harley Connolly here on the tail of Lewis Stannard. Remember, Harley recovering after his big moment going out of Williams a couple of laps ago. Is in 9th position, but actually showed some decent pace earlier on. Launches it up the inside into Agostini's. Has to take to the curb and indeed the grass on the inside there to make sure that he doesn't nerf Lewis Stannard out of the way. Stannard stays in front, but yeah, Harley Connolly could be a good shout for a podium maybe in race 2. I think he's got a little bit more performance this week than he's shown in the past, and will of course have a pretty strong grid position, because Levine Kishaw being laps down will not be counted within the reverse grid, so it will be a top 12 reversal. Down through Bundle and Nelson we go for the last time then. CJ Morgan still unable to find a way past Zach Palmer. They both run wide though out of Nelson. Zach Palmer's trying to close the door, but CJ is there. CJ's chosen to take the risk. He leans slightly on Palmer through the right-hander. And of course, he's got the inside line now for Coram as well. CJ Morgan, I think, is going to make this stick. Now, can Zach Palmer come back at him into Murray's? A corner that was, in theory, redesigned all those years ago to promote more overtaking. Well, Zach Palmer is going to try and prove that right. He's sideways on the curb, though, leans on CJ Morgan. And Alexander Mostov will get the run on the pair of them. Palmer drops behind, but it will be a drag race for second place between the two Chandler Motorsport teammates. Jordan Taylor has already claimed the race victory, but Mostov might just get second. Watch for the timing tower. Who will get it? It is Mostov on the line. Steals second from his teammate. Brilliant opportunistic driving that was from Alexander Mostov. CJ Morgan, after all that effort to get past Zach Palmer, ends up back in third, and Palmer off the podium. It was a bit of a wild lunge, really, from Zach at the final turn. He slid out wide into CJ Morgan, and unfortunately, it was the championship leader who ended up losing second place there. Luke Stintler comes home in fifth ahead of Jamie Petters, with James Sherrington seventh, Lewis Stannard eighth, Harley Connolly ninth, Will Crudson 10th, and then Nathan Jensen will finish 11th. Levine Kisher, I notice, has got back out on track, but is a lap down, and Hayden Gray will therefore be classified in 12th place. Wow, that was a sensational battle there between the Chandler Motorsport teammates, and we will very shortly, I think, be able to chat to both of them, in fact, because they're both going to be on the podium. But first of all, our race winner Jordan Taylor, who does convert pole position into a lights to flag race victory. Jordan, that was made a little bit easier for you by some of the action behind, but there is no arguing with your pace. This is obviously a track that you've just really clicked with.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to be in the battle behind. It looked interesting in my mirrors, but yeah, in the last couple hours, I've managed to click with this track, and it's working well.
Yeah, I mean, really, there's not a lot to talk about because it was a pretty faultless race for you. That you got a good start. There was a little bit of pressure in the opening couple of corners, though. Alex got a really good start. Were you at all concerned that he might have a go at you?
Obviously, because he got a mega start. I don't know how he does it, but I just positioned my car well, tried backing him up into the others, which I managed to do, and then I just carried on from there.
Obviously, CJ ending up on the podium, but only third place. So with the fastest lap, you've taken a decent chunk of points out of him. Now, though, comes the real work, doesn't it? How are you feeling about this reverse grid race?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I managed to pull out a decent gap in this race here. If I can keep the same pace I did in this race, maybe faster, I should have a chance on the podium, if not first place.
Well, best of luck, Jordan. Congratulations on a dominant race 1 victory. Let's see how you get on in race 2.
Cheers, Andy.
Jordan Taylor then getting the race victory, and well, it looked as though it was going to be one of the Chandler Motorsport drivers finishing second in that race, but right at the end, the two of them swapping positions, and it was Alex Mostov who came home in second position, and Alex joins us as well now in the commentary box. Alex, got a start at the end there. What was your view of everything that happened in the last couple of corners? And Alex, if you're speaking, we're not hearing you right now. We'll give this another go. Alex, are you there? And that would appear to be a no. I can see he is in our broadcast studio, has unmuted himself, but perhaps something at Alex's end that needs to be tweaked. We'll give him a moment or two to get that resolved. In the meantime, we'll jump over to his teammate CJ Morgan then, because CJ, in a way, this should have been your interview anyway for second place, shouldn't it? Because you were in second there going into the last corner, and then all of a sudden you weren't.
Yeah, just I missed second coming into the corner, got an awful run out, and Alex managed to get me and Zach. It was so close to the line, and it's unfortunate, but it was annoying, to be fair, because at the start of the race I just got tangled up in an instant that knocked me back to like 6th or 7th, so I had to fight my way back through, and I did the best I could, really.
How hard is it to keep your cool and keep your patience in a situation like that? Because like you said, that really wasn't fault, the incident with Levine at the final corner, but it really put you on the back foot.
Yeah, it did. Sometimes it's hard to keep you cool. Like for the first lap or two, I was a bit irritated, a bit off the pace, but then all you got to do is just calm down, be composed, and then all is good. So that's all that I did. Just calm myself down and got my head down and carried on, really.
You at all worried at the points that have been taken out of you there by Jordan?
I'm not too sure as to how many points it is. I think it's 5 in total, including qualifying, that he's taken out.
Yeah, we've got the gap now at 23 points. So I think he's gained 7 on you so far.
Oh, blimey. Yeah, that is a bit more worrying, but it's all to play for, because the last round at Thruxton's double points, so that'll be the important one.
No, exactly. Well, now that I've made you worry about points, CJ, we'll let you go and concentrate on race 2. Best of luck.
Thank you, Andy.
So CJ Morgan then, who I don't think had been doing the maths from inside the cockpit, understandably so. He had a lot on his plate in the last 20 minutes or so. 23 points, though, is the new gap between CJ Morgan and Jordan Taylor. And as CJ said, that double points finale at Thruxton, very much on his mind. Now, interestingly, Levine Kishore has actually been included in the reverse grid. I'm guessing because he was only 1 lap down. So I think it's normally if you finish more than 1 lap down, you don't get involved in the reverse grid. So that makes sense. So he will have the pole position and really should be nailed on favourite for the race victory given his pace. And remember, he qualified on the front row in the first place for race 1 before getting tangled up in those incidents in the early stages. Hayden Gray will start alongside him, then Nathan Jensen and Will Crudson row 2, Harley Connolly and Lewis Stannard row 3, ahead of James Sherrington and Jamie Petters, with Luke Sintler and Zach Palmer on row number 5. Then the top 3 from the previous race, CJ Morgan, Alexander Mostav and Jordan Taylor, will complete the grid. So, 20 minutes, another 26 points with fastest lap up for grabs. Keep an eye to the championship contenders from the back of the field as Levine Kishore gets a brilliant start from the front of the field and will lead them down into Rich's corner for the first time. Will Crudson there trying to squeeze between Hayden Gray and Nathan Jensen, unsuccessfully ultimately. He'll get past Hayden, but Nathan managing to hang on to second spot. And now we hold our breath as they head towards Rich's corner for the first time. Look at the background there, the 2 white cars and the black car, and there is contact, and Luke Sintner is around. That was CJ Morgan. CJ Morgan again getting involved with Luke Sintner. Those two have been attracted to each other magnetically all night long, and they've made contact again. So Sintler off the road. CJ Morgan trapped down in 12th, and now he's hit his teammate, Mostav. CJ Morgan into Alexander Mostav coming off the Wilson hairpin. This has been a disaster so far for CJ Morgan. His only saving grace, if you like, is that Jordan Taylor is not making a huge amount of progress. He has got ahead of Hayden Gray, but that's the only car, apart from Sintler, that he's managed to get past so far. He's on the outside line as they duck and dive their way down towards the Agostini hairpin for the first time. Harley Connolly there is third. It's Kishore who leads, Nathan Jensen second, Connolly third, and Zach Palmer. Zach Palmer is fourth already. That is fantastic stuff from Zach, who has really been on form here at Snetterton. And it is so often the case in these reverse grid races that it's the progress you make on lap 1 that will ultimately decide your success rate in these ones. If you get mired at the back of the field, and by the time you break through to the front, you've lost touch with the race leader, although Zach Palmer really running wide there out of Oggies. That will lose him time. Will Crudson goes up the inside of him, sort of bailed out of it halfway round the corner, and I think that Zach Palmer should be able to clear him again down the Bentley Straight. So Kishore leads then halfway round lap 1, then Jensen, after a fairly big gap, actually, a 1 second gap at the moment between first and second, a similar margin second to third. Then Zach Palmer fourth, Will Crudson fifth. That's Jamie Petters trying to go around the outside of him. Someone was on the grass, were they? I think going down into Brundle. Nelson, and a big switchback manoeuvre there from Jamie Petters. And he will get that move made, I think, whilst ahead Zach Palmer has got into third now at the expense of Nathan Jensen. I think it was James Sherrington we could see in the mirrors there as well, sort of weaving wildly around through the complex. But side-by-side action, wherever you look, there is Jordan Taylor. Look, Jordan Taylor into the top 6 already. He needs to be aggressive, but it has to be controlled aggression right now. Can't afford contact that puts him off the road or gets him a penalty, but he is steaming his way through the field. And again, the pace that he's got, you wouldn't bet against another race victory with fastest lap. He's trying to get to the outside now of Jamie Petters. That is for 4th position towards Rich's corner. This, meanwhile, is James Sherrington's view. Cars filling the road ahead of him. On our right is Will Crudson. On the left, Nathan Jensen. Crudson will go through. There's a bit of contact. That eases Jensen out wide. And James Sherrington sees a chance to get up the inside of both of them, maybe. He's certainly going to get up the inside of Nathan Jensen. And now he's got the inside on Crudson into the braking zone at the Wilson hairpin. Behind him, there is contact, though. Out wide goes Sherrington. And he will gain 1, lose 2 in the end, because through go Jamie Petters and Lewis Stannard, getting past both of those drivers. Stannard now tries to get to the inside of Petters into Palmer. And I think that might just work. He's got the inside line, but he's up the curb, he's sideways, he's losing traction on the exit. And so not only does Jamie Petters retain 5th place, but Nathan Jensen sees half a chance to get back into 6th. This is typically breathless stuff in our reversed grid race. But only now, look, do the Chandler Motorsport teammates join the party. CJ Morgan still ahead of Alexander Mostav after their little tangle earlier on. And CJ Morgan in 10th, but needless to say, will not be terribly pleased with 10th position, for which at the moment he would score just the 13 points. Jordan Taylor is 4th position right now, which would score him 19. That's another 6 points gained as it stands. There is a good chance, though, that both of those drivers are going to gain some more ground before the race is over. Off goes James Sherrington, pointing the wrong way between Oggies and Williams. Not sure how he got there. Meanwhile, that was Nathan Jensen up the inside of Will Crudson, opening the door for CJ Morgan to probably pick the pocket of both of them now as they head down towards Brundle and Nelson. CJ being given a bit of an assist maybe here by his teammate Alexander Mostav. Certainly Mostav pulling in the slipstream behind him. They run 2x2 underneath the circuit entrance bridge, and CJ Morgan round the outside at Brundle to get the inside for Nelson Corner. That's brave stuff. He'll lean slightly on Nathan Jensen. They both go out wide, and CJ Morgan makes the move stick. Again, elbows out racing there for CJ, but there is a championship on the line now. He really has to go for it. Mostav up the inside of Will Crudson as well. As Jordan Taylor, you can see on the timing tower, is battling with Zach Palmer and has moved ahead of Zach into 3rd. Runs a bit wide on the exit of the final turn, though. Zach Palmer coming back at him. So Jordan Taylor then momentarily at least into 3rd. We'll wait and see at Rich's Corner whether he can hang on to it. That means that at the moment he's outscoring CJ by 4 points. Do with a bit more of that ideally, though. Into Rich's Corner. Inside line through the first turn, and he's just going to get the better of Zach Palmer. But Palmer, we know, will launch an attack at the very next opportunity, and that next opportunity is coming up into the Wilson hairpin. Jordan Taylor, so late on the brakes, though, still manages somehow to get the car stopped. He has really got that car working well around here. Alexander Mostav, meanwhile, up the inside of Nathan Jensen. Alexander has now moved ahead of Riley Bishop for 3rd in the championship. We believe Riley is watching, so happy birthday again, Riley. I hope you're enjoying yourself, whatever you're doing, and we look forward to having you back out on track again in a week's time. But Riley, I'm sure, with the best will in the world, will be hoping that Alexander Mostav doesn't score too many points in this race, because as it stands, Mostav is 20 points ahead of Riley Bishop. And of course, any more points that Mostav scores in this race will also be added onto that, so going to be a 30-odd point deficit probably for Riley when they get to Thruxton. But nearly 80, well, over 80 points will be on the table at the double points finale. So the championship battle likely to remain wide open, but so too the fight for that 3rd place, which is worth £100. So well worth fighting for. And we need to not get distracted too much by the championship battle, because that is going to be of some significance as well. Fastest lap for Jordan Taylor, who's surprised, not me. He has been by far the fastest driver here this week at Snetterton. So 3rd place with fastest lap is now 21 points to CJ Morgan's 7th place being worth 16. So under 20 points now would be the advantage for CJ Morgan. Oh, that's a big moment. Oh, Nathan Jensen getting it all wrong through Brundle and Nelson. I thought for a horrifying moment he was going to T-bone one or both of the Chandler Motorsport cars, but thankfully missed them. And will settle back in behind Will Crudson now, who moves up into 9th spot. It's a good example there of how things out of your control can end up having an impact on your championship hopes. Saw it earlier on, didn't we, when Levine Kishore was tapped into a spin at the end of lap 1 in race 1 at the final corner whilst battling ahead of CJ Morgan. CJ had nowhere to go, ran into the side of him, and Kishore went to the pit lane, lost a couple of laps. CJ Morgan never fully recovered from that, really. ended up on the podium, but you will argue probably should have done a little bit better than that, really. Now, Levine Kishaw leading the race, just set the fastest lap of the race, thus stealing the bonus point away from Jordan Taylor for about 3 seconds, and then Jordan Taylor got it straight back again. Oh, Nathan Jensen's not setting any purple sectors the way he's going. In fact, I'm not quite sure which way he's going. He is reversing off into the farmer's field and appears to be lost. I mean, honestly, that is a driver who doesn't know where he is anymore. He is so far off the track that we can't even see the track from his perspective. I can see an Armco barrier behind us. I think this is Rich's corner, but I couldn't swear to that because he's not close enough to any part of the track to make it distinguishable from any other part of virtual Norfolk. But I suspect that's the last we'll see of Nathan Jensen. He's going to take himself off into a quiet corner of the field and think about what he's done, or what's been done to him, maybe. It is turn 1 that he's gone off. I have to take Tom O'Farrell's word for that because we couldn't see the track. But Nathan Jensen, unfortunately, is very much out of the race. Meanwhile, second place now, Jordan Taylor versus Harley Connolly. And Harley Connolly is, I don't think, going to be able to put up much of a fight here. But remember I said that Harley was an outside bet for a podium in race 2. I still stand by that. Okay, he's dropping down into third now, but he's 2.6, nearly 2.7 seconds clear of Zach Palmer. Doesn't need to get sideways there, though. Big save. Hard on the throttle, steers into it and saves it. But all of a sudden, what was a 2.7 second cushion over Zach Palmer is down to absolutely nothing. And in fact, Zach Palmer is up the inside. So, yeah, sorry, Harley. That might well have been a bit of a curse of the commentator there. Harley Connolly off the podium. And in fact, now down to the back of the top 5 because Jamie Petters goes up the inside of him. That is a shame, though. The point I was about to make is that if he'd have just let Jordan Taylor go and settled in behind him, I don't think Zach Palmer would have necessarily been able to catch him over the second half of the race. But now we will never know. He might still be able to take the fight to Zach and Jamie, though. We'll keep an eye out for that. Meanwhile, Mostav and Morgan and Mostav in that order, moving ahead of Lewis Stannard. So CJ Morgan is now 6th, thus scoring 17 points. Jordan Taylor second with fastest lap, scoring 23, so still 6 more points being taken out of CJ Morgan by Jordan Taylor. Meanwhile, Jamie Petters around the outside of Zach Palmer here, and Harley Connolly is sideways behind them. Oh, out wide over the curbs, over the grass. Which way does Harley choose to go in all of this? Because the road is sort of blocked ahead of him. Petters on the outside, Zach on the inside. Still, that is how they run out of Wilson, except the next 3 corners are left-handed. In fact, they might be 3 abreast by the time they get to the first of them. Harley Connolly peeking to the outside line there, but ultimately didn't quite have the run to get fully alongside. And they settle back in single file temporarily, at least, coming out of Palmer's. Now down towards Agostini, where Petters moves to the inside to defend. Palmer to the outside. Harley Connolly trying to pick which way to go. We'll try and get up the inside of Zach, I would have thought, here through the tight left-hander. Oh, and a bit of contact there. Oh, that was Petters leaning on Palmer. And Palmer tries now to get back up the inside of him. Surprisingly can't. And even more surprisingly, Harley Connolly was not able to take advantage of that. So great battle this for third position. They are, though, allowing CJ Morgan and Alexander Mostav to close in now. The more these 3 fight, the more chance there is that at least one of those Chandler Motorsport cars will end up on the podium. I think they'll do well to get both of them on the podium because the top 2 are some way clear. Lead gap is coming down, by the way. It's at 3.4 seconds now as they go onto the Bentley straight. We'll monitor that over the next lap or so, see whether or not Jordan Taylor can do the double here. He's got the fastest lap, took the maximum points from race 1. Love to do the same again in race 2. On board with Harley Connolly to the outside. Oh, armfuls of understeer this time through Brundle. It was oversteer a lap ago that cost him all that ground. He's not given up hope of a podium finish here. Forces a bit of a defensive move there out of Zach Palmer into the bomb hole. As they head towards Coram. Connolly waiting for his opportunity. He'll want to get on with this, though, because Jamie Petters is just starting to pull a bit of a gap maybe ahead. Jamie Petters, who we saw on the podium, of course, earlier on this season at Donington. Very interesting lines there being taken by Zach Palmer and Harley Connolly. And look in the mirror now, look how much closer CJ Morgan is. Only about 6/10 behind him is Alexander Mostav. Down towards Richards again, where, by the way, Nathan Jensen's screen went blank a lap or so ago. That's why he ended up off in a field. And perhaps for the best. I don't think he'd have liked to have seen where he ended up after that happening. He did the right thing, though, in getting off the road and making sure that he wasn't driving into other traffic around him. Oh, Connolly really late on the brakes there and almost ran into the back of Zach Palmer, and now he's got to start watching his mirrors almost more than he's looking out of the windshield, because CJ Morgan, well, was there, but actually CJ got an even worse exit from Wilson than Harley did. Right now, the best thing that can happen for both of these drivers is that Jamie Petters and Zach Palmer start to fight ahead, because they have built up a small cushion now. Lead gap, by the way, 2.9 seconds, so it's come down by about 4/10 since this point a lap ago. Jordan Taylor pursues Levine Kishore. Behind is where really all of the action is taking place so far. Through the kink at Hamilton. Onto the brakes. Defensive line taken again by Jamie Petters. Zach goes to the outside of him. Trying again to just nibble at the inside into Williams, but he's just not close enough. Really takes a bite out of the inside curb, and that looked like it was working, but then it unbalances the car on corner exit. And Harley Connolly now gets a bit of a run. Looks into the slipstream. You can see Jamie Petters weaving around to try and break that toe a bit at the front of the group. But Harley Connolly and Zach Palmer, neither of them going to be close enough really to challenge each other. Again, Harley looks like he's drifting a bit wide there, but actually hooks it up to a decent second part of the Brundle-Nelson complex. As they arrive at the bomb hole, they're all just as close as ever they were, really. CJ Morgan stuck a little bit in sixth, but actually Jordan Taylor is no longer gaining on Levine Kishore, and he's certainly not gaining by enough to catch Levine by the end. Still 2.8 seconds, which is what it was half a lap or so ago. So creeping down now slightly as they come across the line, but 2.7 seconds is still a good margin here for Levine. Harley Connolly there ducks his nose out of line. It's got action written all over it, this group there, hasn't it? You've got CJ Morgan at the back of the group, desperately trying to gain some points, gain some places. He's got 3 more positions right in front of him that would gain him an extra 4 championship points if he could get them all. But it'll be easier said than done. Does he have a go at Harley here into the braking zone at Wilson? Yes, he does. CJ Morgan up the inside makes that look quite easy, gets the car stopped. That was a picture perfect move there by CJ Morgan. The best moves of the day so far. Squeaky clean as well, so he's now up into 5th position. 18 points going his way, 5 fewer than Jordan Taylor. So 18 points by my reckoning would be the gap between the two of them. Still though, 4.25 minutes to go, so likely this and one more lap. And that's ample time for CJ to gain some more ground. That was a bit of contact there, I think, between Mostav and Connolly. Where's Mostav gone? Oh, he's there on the... That's a very strange place for Mostav to end up. I suspect maybe Mostav was having his own moment and just sort of gathered Harley Connolly up into it, because it's an odd place for Mostav to have landed, if you see what I mean, from that slide. He's fallen behind Lewis Stannard now as well to 8th place. So Mostav in strife. His teammate, though, suddenly waking up in this race, gets into the back of Zach Taylor. Oh my word, Zach Palmer, excuse me, gets muscled out of the way there by CJ Morgan. It was hard to see from that angle whether CJ punted him or whether Zach turned into him, but not once but twice did they make contact. And Zach Palmer won't be very happy with how that's ended up. Down to 6th position now for the Vinasport driver. CJ Morgan in the Chandler Motorsport car gains a place. Harley Connolly as spectacular as ever through Brundle and Nelson. It looks great, that, but it ain't the quickest way through that sequence of corners. And Harley beginning now to lose touch with the two ahead. So CJ Morgan into 4th now. That is worth 19 points. And I think 19 is now what his advantage would be, as Harley Connolly again gets his side hustle, but not as sideways as Zach Palmer. They're all struggling with one of the things I always struggle with, actually, when racing on the sim at Snetterton. It's a track that I've always struggled with a little bit, because there are so many places where you're braking on a turn and then you ask the car to change direction. You put all of that weight on the nose of the car when you brake, and that really makes the back of the car light. So when you start then weaving the steering wheel from side to side, as you have to through places like Brundle and Nelson and Coram and Murray's, the rear end starts wanting to swap around and overtake the front very quickly. So very easy to lose the rear of the car, especially front-wheel drive cars in that way. That was a bit clumsy there from Lewis Stannard. Just dipped a wheel on the grass going into Wilson, locked up the brakes. Somehow managed to keep Alex Mostav behind him. This for 7th position. Downhill up towards Agostini. There you go. So CJ Morgan is now 4th. He is on the tail of Jamie Petters, who has had a couple of podium finishes so far this season, would like to add another one here at Snetterton, and is not going to care one bit that he's denying CJ Morgan his 2nd podium finish of the night. I neglected to check how long was on the clock when they started this lap, but I'm going to go ahead and assume this is the final lap of the race with 1:20 to go. Leaders on the back straight. Oh, it'll be tight. They might just squeeze one more out. Of course, they did in race 1, but the pace in race 2 sometimes a bit slower. Not massively this time, though, because Levine Kishaw's led every lap so far, and we know he's been quick. Very odd line there being taken by Zach Palmer as he goes through the part of the circuit where his race really unravelled a lap ago. Whilst Alex Mostav still is trying to find a way past Lewis Stannard. I'm going to change my mind now. Commentator's prerogative. I think we're going to get another lap out of this because we've got 50 seconds to go. And Levine Kishaw for HFT Racing is just now heading into the final 2 corners. It does take a long time to get through these last 2 corners and make the drag to the line, but I think so far ahead are these two that they likely will squeeze one more lap out of the race. 2.1 seconds now the gap. So Jordan Taylor's thrown everything at this. And in fairness, 2nd place with fastest lap is only 2 points fewer than a race victory. But it's 3 points fewer than a race victory with fastest lap, which is what he would have liked to have taken. And if he now loses this championship by 2 or 3 points, he will point to this race perhaps as where those points went begging. Meanwhile, Jamie Petters wasn't quite sure there whether he could close the door against CJ Morgan, and in the end chose not to, when he possibly could have done. But either way, CJ has that inside line now into Rich's corner. And this has been another really professionally handled drive by CJ. Jamie is squeezing him into turn 1. CJ Morgan will go through, but slide wide. So Jamie Petters gets back up the inside again. And this is another nervy moment now for the championship leader. One wrong move from either of these two could spell disaster for Morgan. And for that reason, perhaps, he decides to just let Jamie Petters have the corner. He's still got the best part of a lap to try and make a move. Holly Connolly, by the way, starting to reel them back in again, 1.2 seconds back, but if these two keep running side by side as they were just now, then he might still be able to get onto terms with Petters and Morgan by the flag and steal a podium. Of course, Morgan saw in race 1 that these things can change, things can go wrong very, very quickly. Towards the left-hander at Hamilton they go. Yeah, Morgan then, can he find a way past Jamie Petters on this, the final lap of the race? Into Williams. One more chance then really now to start building the challenge. A good exit from Williams is required. Down the Bentley straight, but he couldn't be much closer, could he? Only a car length between them. And that's a Saxo length, so not a very big car. And you can see the gap coming down all the time. Now, which way does Petters go to defend? The obvious place is the left, but sometimes it's better to go right. Let the other car have the inside line for Brundle, knowing that you've got the inside for Nelson. That is what Jamie ultimately did. CJ trying to bully his way through, though, and has gone through. There was, I think, a little bit of contact there, and in fact, CJ runs out wide. Jamie Petters tries to get the run towards the bomb hole. Harley Connolly is back there with them again. And is Connolly going to peek to the inside at Coram corner? No, he isn't. Meanwhile, Levine Kishaw is going to make a very welcome return to the podium. Across the line he goes, and Levine Kishaw will win the 2nd race here at Snetterton, with Jordan Taylor taking a valuable 2nd place. Harley Connolly is out wide, coming out of the final corner. And it will be CJ Morgan who comes home in 3rd, Petters 4th, Connolly 5th. So CJ Morgan will take provisionally 20 points, which is only going to be 3 fewer than Jordan Taylor. So by my reckoning, 20 points will be the advantage between CJ Morgan and Jordan Taylor going into the finale, but we'll double check those points before we leave you here tonight from Snetterton. But it's Levine Kishore who gets his first victory in the Junior Saloon Car Championship's official E-Series, and Jordan Taylor, I think, congratulating him there in proper sim racer fashion. Kishore the winner, Taylor second, Morgan third, Peters fourth, with Holly Connolly fifth, and Zach Palmer, Alex Mostav, Luke Sintler, Lewis Stannard and Will Crudson to complete the top 10, with James Sherrington and Hayden Gray 11th and 12th, although Hayden isn't yet at the line. Nathan Jensen, meanwhile, the only non-finisher after that unfortunate screen freeze, which saw him off ploughing the fields at Rich's corner. So we'll hear then from our podium finishers very shortly. And in fact, Levine Kishore joins us now in the commentary box. So Levine, congratulations. At long last, that first victory has come. It's been a long time coming, but that really was always on the cards, I suppose, after what was a disappointing race one. It's always nice to bounce back, though, with a race victory in race two.
Yeah, I mean, the reverse grid really helped. Unfortunately, I had really bad internet issues, so I wasn't even able to join race one until quite late. But thankfully it got fixed for race two and I was able to capitalize on the reverse grid. Yeah, I mean, great job to Taylor. He was catching up as well quite quickly, but I think towards the end I started matching his lap times and I started getting in the groove again after a very, very hard race one. So pretty happy with that, and hopefully we can continue into Thruxton.
It can be difficult, that, can't it? When you build a big lead like that, sometimes it's easy to let the mind wander, and you were losing a bit of time there to Jordan in the middle part of the race, but we've been saying all night how quick Jordan has been. The fact that you were then able to peg him back shows that your pace has been impressive as well. It's a shame you haven't been able to do the full season, because I think more race wins probably would have gone your way.
Yeah, I mean, I missed Donington Park, I think, and unfortunately I haven't been able to get onto pace for the other tracks just as quickly. But for Thruxton, I'm putting all my energy into it, so hopefully I can get 2 more wins, but we'll see when the race actually comes. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think you'll probably have half a chance at breaking into the top 5, and with double points, maybe even into the top 3 as well, for which the prize money is available. So Levine, we wish you the very best of luck with that. But congratulations, a really superb performance there.
Thank you.
So Levine Kishore then, your race winner. Jordan Taylor doesn't quite get the maximum points from Snetterton, but it was still a very, very good performance tonight from Jordan, from the back of the grid in race 2 to second place. And Jordan, it wasn't even like you gained lots of places on lap 1. You really had to work for that in the middle part of the race.
Yeah, certainly did. Because it's such a long lap, as soon as that little gap builds, even the gap Levine had like 4 seconds, it takes forever to catch back up because it's such a long lap. I was trying to get through the pack as fast as I could at the start of the race, so that didn't happen, but unfortunately it did. And I was close, but I was overdriving, which also meant I wasn't going as fast as I could have, which doesn't help all at the same time, but yeah.
That being said, though, this has been by far your best night of the season. You've got the points gap down to somewhere around 20 points now. Double points available at Thruxton, so I guess you just want to try and carry this momentum on. It's still on this, isn't it?
Yeah, always. Even I missed round 1, I said from Donington, the championship battle is still on, because I've just been determined to beat TJ.
Well, we'll wait and see whether you're able to do that at the final round. But Jordan, congratulations. Really impressive stuff here tonight at Snetterton. And we wish you the best of luck for the decider.
Cheers, Andy.
Well, CJ Morgan, as we were just referring to, has lost a chunk of his championship lead tonight. CJ, it's been a trying evening this, hasn't it? It seems that every time you looked like you were onto a winner, something would come out of the blue to make your life a little bit harder.
Yeah, both races were a bit unfortunate. Got tangled up in a couple incidents which couldn't be avoided, but at the end of the day, I've still got a decent lead. I think 19 points if I'm right with maths.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so still a decent lead. It's just all to play for really at Thruxton, so I'll have to see what I can do at Thruxton really.
Yeah, Thruxton's going to be an interesting one. I think the racing there could get pretty wild anyway, especially with all of these extra points on the table. Do you approach that round any differently? Are you going to put a bit more practice in? Is there anything in particular that you will look to practice that you think could make the difference?
I definitely do need to get a bit more practice in for Thruxton, because for this race, I only got like 50 laps of practice in, something like that. Whereas there were some drivers that had 300 laps, so I was at a bit of a disadvantage. But at the end of the day, I did the best I could, and we'll just see how it goes really at Thruxton.
Yeah, well, I suppose all you can do is your best. We'll see whether that's going to be enough ultimately to lift the trophy at the end of the season. But CJ, well done. A really professional performance as ever tonight in pretty tough circumstances. And yeah, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you, Andy.
There are our podium finishers then. And CJ Morgan, that's, I think, the most anxious that we've heard CJ all season long. He knows that was a little bit of a rough night for him. We'll wait and see what effect that has on the championship in a moment or two. Before that, I need to announce our driver of the round. The vote has been carried out, the decision has been made, and it's Zach Palmer who wins the driver of the round award here at Snetterton. So a pair of FreeM sim racing gloves heading his way, and Zach Palmer hopefully will be able to take some solace in that, because that second race was shaping up quite nicely like his first one was, and unfortunately a little bit of an incident towards the end took him out of contention. But he's been really quick tonight, and arguably could have taken a couple of podiums from the two races here at Snetterton. Well then, this is what the championship standings look like, and it is in fact a slightly bigger championship lead for CJ Morgan than he thought. 20 points the gap now between CJ and Jordan Taylor, so it came down by 10 points then tonight, and Jordan Taylor will know that with double points available next week, or double points in the second race I should say, should be possible to take 20 points out of CJ again. But as we just heard from CJ, he's going to put in all of the hours of practice to make sure that that is not made easy for his big championship rival. Mathematically, by the way, Alexander Mostav and Harley Connolly could still win the championship, but they are realistically left fighting for third, and don't count Levine Kishaw or Riley Bishop or Lewis Stannard or Jamie Petters or Luke Sintler out of that group. In fact, look how close that is really, from Kishaw 5th on 154 points all the way down to Zach Palmer 11th on 138, just 16 points between those drivers as they fight for positions within the top 10. Nathan Jensen completing the top 10, and the rest of the drivers you can see down below, but it will be a 20-point lead for CJ Morgan as we make our way to Thruxton, where the second race of the night will be worth double championship points, and that will all be found here on Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing on the 6th of April. So same time, same place, your Thursday evening entertainment is sorted. You might want to bring the popcorn for that one, because I think we're going to be in for a pretty tasty night of racing. Championship on the line, and Jordan Taylor looking to try and do what we thought was pretty much unthinkable early this season, and managed to clinch the championship despite not competing at the opening round. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here at Snetterton. Again, a big thanks to everyone who's helped put the broadcast and the championship event on. We will all be back again in a week's time at Thruxton for the championship decider in the Junior Saloon Car Championship's official E-Series, where CJ Morgan and Jordan Taylor will go head-to-head over two races at the high-speed Hampshire circuit. You will not want to miss it. We'll see you then.